I'm Melissa.
And I'm Jesse. And
this is the Reimagine Success podcast.
We're a husband and wife team who want to make a difference.
Keeping up with the Joneses can be exhausting, and we can often lose sight of what we are accomplishing.
We're here to reimagine success and to celebrate the steps it takes us to get there.
Big or small, we want to showcase success stories that will inspire, motivate, and help propel you towards greatness in your own life.
So come reimagine success with us, and let's go on this journey together.
Welcome back to the season finale of Reimagine Success. That's right. It is our 26th episode.
26 episodes. Holy cow. We've had a wild half year already. Just some amazing guests, some amazing times at great conversations. I've learned a ton.
I've learned so much, and not just about career or, but about yourself, about life, and really what makes us unique, and also what makes us a collective and makes us together.
Yeah, that's what I love about doing this podcast is it not only, teaches us practical things, but it also inspires us just to be better people every single day. And hopefully that's doing that for you as well, our listeners, and that every time you listen to this podcast, you walk away feeling like you just want to be a better person.
That's right. And with that, we have a really awesome update. I just want to update you guys that we just bought a house.
Woo! We closed on it yesterday.
So we are so excited. I know we've talked about our struggles, which is bringing out everything for our podcast and setting it all up and then having to tear it all back down after the end of it. And now we actually have a creative space. We're going to have a podcast station. We're going to be able to do a lot more with our Patreon. That's patreon.com/creativeglobal. We're going to do all of our late night chats still. And now we have a creative space to do it.
Yeah, so this will be the last episode from our current location, which is really fitting that this is the end of our season.
I know.
Plus the beginning of our new season of life. So it's a double whammy for you guys.
Right. So next week we will be in the new location.
So exciting.
With our new season. Very exciting. And with that,
we've got an amazing guest today. I can't wait.
Man, our season finale is going to be incredible. Get ready to have fun, laugh, and just learn a lot about everything. We have Gilbert Lawand. He's an Atlanta-based comedian whose style is a mix of social commentary, satire, and silliness drawn from a unique background. He was actually born in Baghdad to Catholic parents before moving to a town called Warm Springs, Georgia, where he grew up on a farm. Gilbert has opened up large theater shows for both Dave Chappelle and Aziz Ansari. So welcome, Gilbert.
Hello.
So great to
Thanks
have
for
you.
having me.
Yes, we were so excited. And thanks for joining and being our season finale.
I know. Thank you for having me. I feel like I got to bring the A game if I'm in the season finale.
The pressure's
on.
on
Your podcast, they're gonna be like, we actually had one more season finale.
No, that's awesome. So now I've actually known Gilbert for a really long time. He does stand up not only here in Atlanta, but nationwide. I know you went to New York and did stand up. You opened for Dave Chappelle.
Yeah, that's nuts.
Yeah, that was pretty amazing. I still, when I think about it, it feels like a dream. Like it was about 6 years ago, and it was right before I moved to New York for 3 years, then moved back.
Yeah.
But I got to open for him at the Tabernacle for 2 shows, and then the next night we went to Charleston, and I got to open for him in the Charleston Music Hall for 2 shows.
I love the Charleston Music Hall.
3,000 people each. What was that?
I love the Charleston Music Hall. I've been there several times for concerts, and it's just an amazing venue. I bet that was wild being up on that stage, just
it's crazy.
Opening up for one of the biggest acts in all of comedy.
Yeah.
So
it was all surreal. It was just like a fever dream. I was just like floating around. I would be talking to him in the green room, and every 15 minutes my brain would be like, "That's Dave Chappelle you're talking to." Yeah. Did not let me really enjoy the moment for too long, because I was like, because he is it. He's like, he's more than an icon. He's the Mount Rushmore. He's on Mount Rushmore of comedy.
For
Between
sure.
him and Aziz, that's a fantastic resume you've got there.
Aziz is hilarious.
the Z's one was amazing because it was at the Fox, and it was
Oh,
Oh, nice.
that was like 5,000 people, and it was really amazing. It was like there's truly a delay between like your your punchline and then laughter, and it would be like a second, and then all of a sudden it would be like it reminded me of like this old commercial of like BASF or something where like the guy's sitting in a couch and his hair is blowing back.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah, I remember that. It was like over old. But it was amazing. It was 5,000 people, and it's funny because like I met a girl afterwards who lived close to me in the Highlands. And anytime you meet somebody after one of these shows, they're like, you want to tell them, hey, this is not a very accurate depiction of my life. They're like, wow, you must. I'm like, yeah, I'm in my 40s and have roommates, but yeah, that's what you saw was accurate. That's I guess it's every night for me.
Well, speaking of that, I know that you've had, you grew up in Baghdad. You were born there. So let's get a little bit of your story. What's your history? I know you grew up there. How long were you there? And you moved to Georgia. So what's a little bit of your story like?
Yeah, it's a crazy background, and every time I say it out loud, I feel like I'm making it up because it's so crazy. Because I was born in Baghdad to Catholic parents, which is a small percentage of the Middle East. It's an old culture called the Chaldean culture or Assyrian,
Mhm.
which so I speak Aramaic, which is the language Jesus spoke.
Oh, wow.
So like,
I,
but I
I
only
thought
use it to text. What's
I
that?
thought people didn't actually speak Aramaic anymore.
Yeah, they still do. There's
Okay.
Assyrian people. Most of them are in Dearborn. That's
Mhm.
a very brown city. But yeah, it's a small population. It's probably a few 100,000, but not it's not very widely spoken. But it's I don't speak of them. I use it to text my sisters about weed and Adderall. So that's the only thing I use it. And
You're
yeah,
like,
so
I
I was
have my
born.
own language for that.
So I was born there, and then when I was 2, we moved to Riyadh, Saudi Arabia for my dad's job. And then when I was 6, we moved to Warm Springs, Georgia, where I grew up
Mhm.
on a farm. So
Nice.
there's definitely skipping some dots you want
Put
to
them
what do you
together.
call it? Yeah, put together. It's
Yeah.
basically
So what brought you
yeah.
guys from Baghdad to Georgia?
Well, that's classified. I can't really talk about that.
He'll have to kill you, Jesse.
Yeah, we were just growing Al Qaeda, and
Yep.
I'm just kidding. My dad became really good friends with this engineer that went to Georgia Tech when
Mhm.
he was in Saudi Arabia because it was like a big water treatment facility and all this stuff. And he knew that my dad wanted to move us to the U.S. And he said, you have to see this farm. It's beautiful. If you want it like as an investment, before you move to Chicago, Detroit, which is where like most of our, relatives live now and where they were moving to. So he came over and bought it. And then in 1980, we moved there. And originally we were just going to be there temporarily, but then we were there for a little while to help like my mom's side of the family get out of Iraq. So like a year or two passed, and then got some out, and then another year or two passed, we got some more people. Then after like 3 years, my dad was like, "Let's just stay here." It's like it is a beautiful farm. It's like a 400-acre farm with
Oh,
30
wow.
acre lake on it,
Oh,
but it's a
nice.
tiny, tiny town. It's like 500 people, one traffic light. So we ended up just staying there, which was like a strange, progression of Baghdad. So it's funny because like my siblings, it's kind of like you can track where we were born. Like I was born in Baghdad. My younger brother, who's 2 years younger, was born in London. One of my sisters was born in Detroit. Then my last sister was born in Columbus. So we were, slowly getting more redneck as we were.
So about what year was this when you came over to the US?
1980.
Okay.
All
So
right.
yeah, I was 6.
Okay.
So right before all the Gulf War stuff, so you kind of missed out on
Yeah.
that. That's good.
Yeah, it was right before the Gulf War, right before the Iran-Iraq
Mm-hmm.
war, and then so that lasted like 7 or 8 years. So that's when that was the second wave of people that came out of Iraq of our family members that we brought out.
Okay.
So yeah, so we moved there, where I grew up there. Like I mean, there's like 28 people in my high school class. There's like 500 people. It's where FDR used to go for polio treatment.
Oh, wow.
A lot of people have taken field trips there to the little White House where he had a little estate where he had all these like these mansions, like one big building with just his canes, and like it was pretty historically significant at one point.
Wow.
Just,
wow. Is it still
Warm
there?
Springs, Georgia. Who knew?
yeah, it's still there.
Wow. Okay. Field trip with the kids. I have a future plan.
Well, that's
Yeah.
funny. You used to live in Warm Springs. We currently are in Sandy Springs. I used to live in Boiling Springs. We're all just a bunch of springy people, I guess.
Yeah.
Whole bunch of springs around the world.
Boiling to warm to springy. Sandy. No, Sandy.
That's awesome. All right. Well,
Yeah.
so when did you get into comedy?
I got into it later in life than most people. I was 32, 33. Most people. So I already had a whole other life before that.
Wow. Okay.
I was a CPA, and I was an MBA school at Emory. When a friend of mine in grad school there was like, we talked about comedy all the time. I mean, I've loved it my whole life, but I never thought it. No one really thinks they're going to try that really.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And he was like, he'd been doing it a little bit, like as a hobby. And he said, one night he was like, well, I'm doing the show at What's Now the Punchline.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
Yep. Was just there.
Yeah. He was like, it was called Showcase Comedy Lounge. And he's like, just come up there. I can get him to put you on for like 3 or 4 minutes. Don't tell anybody. And I did it, and it was really fun, like too fun.
Yeah.
And I started doing it every now and then, like once a month or whatever. And then I got laid off from my consulting job, and I was like, I don't think I want to jump right back in, because the job I had at the time was like real intense, like Monday through Thursday travel,
Yeah.
60, 70 hours a week. And I was like, I think I want to do something that lets me pursue this a little bit more. And then it just slowly overtook everything and has ruined my life.
Now, were you already writing material at that time, like just casually, or did you just get up there and kind of riff off the top of your head?
Kind of a little both, but I'd been writing some. What's funny is like I remember like thinking, like I've always wanted to be, I've always been kind of the funny guy. But I remember one time when I was in my 20s, I was like, I was riffing the other night, and I wonder, like I started thinking, if I wrote down all these things that I wrote, like I thought about, and I just had this arsenal of stuff, like I was thinking about it more of like real cheesy, like with my friends or like being out. Then I was like, well, that's what comedy is. Basically, it's like,
Right.
aggregating a bunch of like funny things and then like recounting them.
You're like, I can slay with all my friends if I just write this stuff down and memorize it.
Yeah. Exactly.
I'll look like
Yeah.
a hit. People think I'm hilarious.
Yeah. I wonder if there's anything I could do with that. Oh, yeah. So that's how I got started there. It was really kind of later in life, and definitely a change in my whole perspective. Like I was making really good money then, and I guess we'll get into the career side of it, of like making a living doing it. It's definitely a struggle, even for the most successful people, because there's no like, you have to be so proactive, whether you're me or whether you're Bill Burr
Yeah.
or whoever.
Right.
There's no like somebody you don't clock in anywhere. You don't like have a thing to that's being presented to you that you need to meet these. It's all self-imposed, and like, so it becomes and there's different ways of monetizing it, but it's definitely a struggle, like for sure, for almost anyone.
Right. Now, do you have a an agent or a manager?
No, I have a joke where I'm like, my agent doesn't like me to tell anyone what her name is, and I'm like, Mom, I gotta tell some people. No.
That's awesome.
I went to New York. That's what part of my hope of moving to New York. But no, I don't have a booking agent. I have a like booking sort of like they have these booking agents that are like East Coast that have like
Yep.
a bunch of clothes, but not one personally.
Mhm.
I'm kind of trying to migrate now to. There's a lot of people that have just circumvented the whole industry. Like, if you get enough of a following, however that comes out, whether it's TV or whether it's like podcast or or whatever it is, you can like completely, negate the
Like the
the
terms
reason
and
for it. Yeah. So
yeah.
like, so I'm trying to go that route because at this point, since I've been doing it about 15, 16 years, it's going to be more trying to prove that I don't. It's almost like when a bank won't loan you money until you don't need money. It's like I'm probably not gonna get an agent now until I don't need one. So like,
well, that's kind of the plight of creative people.
Yeah.
We don't have that typical job that everybody else has. We have to just make things happen on our own.
yeah,
I'm a musician. Melissa does acting. Like
Mm-hmm.
we have to chase every show we get.
Yep.
And if we don't have people working on our behalf, which we don't, it's up to us to, track down those shows, call up venues, see when they have an opening and try to get on the bill and then promote it ourselves. It's a lot of work. And so for us, right at this stage of our lives, we also have to have a day job and all that stuff. Do you still have a day job, or are you doing comedy full time?
yeah. I still do accounting. I'm still freelance accounting. I typically do like I'll either do a contract job where it's like 6 to 10 weeks, and then I won't do accounting for a while, or I'll do like some freelance stuff where I'll have like a few clients where I'm doing like bookkeeping or so. Yeah, so I definitely still have have to get earnings from other sources. I've come
Right.
close a couple times. It's been like a sliding scale, where you're like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, it seems like I'm moving toward that, and then especially before the pandemic, I was like, because I produced a big festival in Atlanta called the Red Clay Comedy Festival,
Oh, cool.
and it's we had our 6th year last year, and it's grown a lot. So certain things that were starting to get maybe put me in a position of being like, okay, comedy or comedy adjacent is my whole livelihood, but that kind of has been like cut down a little bit, and with
Yeah.
because
COVID, I'm telling you, COVID, it it brought you to, I feel like, where you want to be in life as far as what you want and what is a priority for you and what you really want to do with your life. Because everyone had to be inside for a while. We all had to be shut in, and you really had to just be with yourself. And it's like, okay,
yeah,
what am I doing with my life? Am I going in the right direction? So it kind of gives you those goals, but at the same time, everything's shut down, so you don't have any income coming in during those times, especially if you're
Mhm.
creatives like us. So you really have to hustle and kind of see where this next chapter of your life is. But I feel like if you have your goals and where you want to go, then you can push that. And now that everything's opening back up, now you can just, the sky's the limit, or the
that's a
moon's
great
the
way to
limit.
put it, because I put half of that together in the
Mm-hmm.
past, where when we were all like quarantined, and we were had to be with ourselves, had to be with our thoughts, and had to inevitably think about where we were going in life and what mattered and what didn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
But then you're right, then like if it came to the conclusion of what you're doing is still your passion, which I came to that conclusion, sounds like you guys did too.
Oh yeah.
But then it was like put to a lower level, so you're like, okay, but you're gonna have to want it more now,
Yeah.
because what you just
Mhm.
realized is your passion is going to be even harder. But the good thing is you do know that your passion is still alive in you, because that's what I think about comedy, and you probably think maybe the same way, is like whether your compensation, like when people say, do you do this full time? I never know what to say to that. It's like, yeah, I
I
do
would
it.
say
Well,
I would say
you know,
you are a comedian.
yeah, but
What is full time?
it's
Is full time comedy shows every Friday night? Is that considered full time? You know what I mean?
I mean,
Like
I
for
do
a
4 or 5
comedian,
shows a week, and
yeah,
like, is
that's
that full
that.
time?
I feel like that's full time.
Yeah.
But I think what they're asking is, do you do anything else for
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
but which is a reasonable question. But like, I think that whether you're doing that or not, I think if you're doing something creative every day for
Mm-hmm.
for your living, not like for a living monetarily, make bill,
Mhm.
but for a life. Like if
Yes.
Right.
you're every day trying to be creative, and you've set up your life to be in conducive to be able to be creative every day and every week and every month, whether it's being monetized or not is sort of secondary. It eventually would like to be, if the ideal situation. But if you're being creative all the time, as much as you want, as much as it feeds, then I think that that's a level of success that is like overlooked, or people that outside of creative life aren't aware of, you know?
Exactly. And that's a big thing about this podcast that we always like to focus on, is that success looks different to everybody. You know, some people are just obsessed with the money side of it, and they're only successful if they have X amount of dollars in their bank account. And we're trying to change that mindset. You know, like, you are successful because you're doing the thing that you love on a regular basis and it makes you happy.
Right.
And that's bigger success than any dollar amount.
Yeah.
Totally.
It's not based on money and how much you have in your bank account. And of course, that's all important in this society, which is so dumb to me. But at the same time, it's what makes you happy and what fulfills you. And if you do those things every single day, then everything else in your life will come. The money will come, the energy from that will come. And as long as you're doing everything that makes you happy, you're giving, you're getting, you know, the circle keeps going around the corner, then you are successful.
Yeah. And the reason you want to get to where all your earnings come from that is not so you can say, yeah, I do this full time. It's because then now you have more time to do that creative thing. Whereas like when you're trying to, like, when you're having to compensate for, you know, a lack of earnings from that creative thing you love, then like you want to replace that with the creative thing completely. So that's the only reason that it feels like you're not quite there yet. Not because it's a, you know, like keep it up with the Joneses. It's more like I want to wake up and be like, I'm doing comedy today, and I'm not worried about like people's taxes.
Yeah, you don't want to have to do another job that takes all your energy, and then by the time you finally get to do the thing you love, you're exhausted from your day job, and you don't have the energy to put into it,
and to be creative.
It's such a sad thing that we live in a world that we have to grind ourselves to the bone every single day for stuff that we don't even care about, just to do the little things that we like.
Yeah,
that's so true. Well, very well put too. It's like, yeah, it's penance, but it's like you have to do it to do that creative thing. And I think that, like, when I first got laid off and I was trying to decide whether to kind of jump in like into comedy, I remember this and I was really struggling with it because I had like just gotten my MBA and had all this like student debt, and like, you know, I'd always been focused on these, you know, jobs where it's like, you know, you're here in 2 years, you're here in 4 years, you have a different title and five, like blah blah blah. And I couldn't separate, or I was so tethered to that socially normal way of living that that one of my friends was like, yeah, but if you love what you do, it's like everything will take care of itself. And then it magically sort of thought about that saying that people would say in offices all the time, like, can't wait till Friday, can't wait till Friday.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, you can't wait to get away from that thing that you spend 90% of your time doing voluntarily on Friday. That is crazy. That's crazy. Crazier than me in my mid 40s having a roommate.
Yeah.
They're both not ideal.
I talk about that a lot in my music. You know, you get 2 days off and you think you're living. Like, that's not life. And those 2 days off, you're so busy catching up on the bull crap you got to do around your house, and you know, doing all the stuff that you can't do while you're working, that you don't even get to live. Like, people think that 2 days off and a week's vacation is life, and we have to start changing our mentalities as the human race. We've got to do something different. And I was hoping that COVID would change things. I was hoping we'd come back out of this pandemic and people would realize, okay, the way the world was before was broken and we need to change it. But it just went right back to the same old garbage. And it's so depressing.
It really did. Until we moved to like toward like a, I think it's like we've just gone on a wrong path at some point in our evolution. But like at a certain point with like, if our technology advances enough to where you're like, money doesn't really matter, then certain people are going to be lost with like how to gauge themselves, like how to measure, where you're like, I mean, like we probably would have like flying cars and like not have a job at this point if all of our science in the past had been directed just toward like human
like evolution to
progress. Instead of like for 50 years, like a third of the scientists in the world were like working on nuclear weapons, and like you have companies competing with patents, and like so at a certain point if we get there, there's going to be a point where like money doesn't matter, because it probably doesn't matter to an advanced alien species. They're not like, how much money you got, player?
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
You know. So
Right. They don't care. They're like, whatever, we can just telepathically communicate with you. So what do
yeah,
we need a cell
Yep.
phone for?
exactly.
Well, that's great. Well, no, so Gilbert, what style of comedy are you most known for?
Super vulgar, super male
Yep.
chauvinistic.
Yeah.
Yeah, very racist toward brown people. You guys can't see me, but I'm brown. No, I would say, I would call it, the way I would describe it is likable smartass, I
Yeah.
guess. Like I like to be very cynical. I do touch on like my background and how I view the world, and especially this day and age, but try not to get too political. I try to like, it's, some of it is storytelling, a lot of it is silly, like super silly, and
Hmm.
it delves into my background, but also just a real sort of smart ass, but not offensive kind of like, I mean, at times I'm sure everybody can be offended at everything, but
Mhm.
I would say it's more of a cynical but not abrasive kind of way.
Right. And what have your parents been to your comedy shows?
What's that?
Has your parents been to your
Yeah.
comedy?
Well, my mom, yeah, my dad passed away when I was 12, but
Okay.
he, my mom has been to like two, I think.
Okay.
She
All
doesn't,
right.
she's not gonna come to like Manny, because that's actually a good, like a sort of a, she's fine with the comedy part, but I can't, like, there's certain things that I you know, with comedy, the one thing you want to be is yourself, you.
Yeah.
Hmm.
You
Authentic.
don't
Yeah.
want to
Yep.
like pander. You like, the best comics are the ones where you're like, you know, that's them, you
Yep.
know, whether
Hmm.
it's, you know, their opinion, or whether it's their way of addressing a certain subject. And so some of mine is, I grew up Catholic, but I'm not Catholic anymore. um I say in my act, I'm like, I'm not Catholic anymore because I can, you know, read. So but my mom's super Catholic. It's a very big sticking point. So certain things, like, it's not that she like will avoid, like, you know, shows, but it's not something that's like, it's
Yeah.
just, you know, like she's been, and it was fine. I mean, you know, I had her come to the Aziz Ansari show to be like, wow, see, things are good. You'll never see me in front of these people again.
Is she pretty supportive of you though?
Yeah, incredibly supportive. I
That's
mean,
That's
awesome.
good.
yeah, it's just getting, you know, that time, like we're talking about making a living and monetizing it. Like my
Hmm.
younger brother, who's 2 years younger, he's a radiologist. He's like head of radiology at one of the big hospitals here, and he's like incredible shape, and like, so it's getting to the point where it's like supportive, it's also worried. You know, you're like, are you letting your like mental, physical, and emotional health deteriorate for the sake of this thing that you were, because like, you know, with comedy, a lot of times, I'm sure you know, and you've heard, like, we have, a lot of us have mental problems that are, you know, that are not like, they're more pervasive than the normal occupation, I guess.
Hmm.
And it's like easy to let it kind of slide. So
Yeah,
any
because
support she doesn't give me is out of concern. So
it's easy to mask that stuff when you're the funny guy
Hmm.
and you just bury it deep and make a joke about it. And then it's like, oh yeah, depression. I'll just make that funny and
yeah,
not worry
yeah,
about it.
it's a coping mechanism for sure.
Well, but also, Gilbert, you're a truth teller to a lot of people out there that are going through the same things that will not talk about it, because it's something that a lot of people don't talk about. And so you are, the last truth teller out. Comedians, they're the last truth tellers to tell everything the way that it actually is. Whereas
Mhm.
people who are offended, they will not say what you will say because you will actually say the truth of things. Do you feel like that's accurate?
Well, that's accurate, I would say, from a very high level. Like, it's definitely a case by case basis, but I know what you're saying. Yeah, that's very true. It's the last bastion of like a group of people that aren't beholden to anyone. That's like,
Mm-hmm.
you can't like, I mean, one of my friends like was like talking about quitting comedy. It's like, I don't even know where I would quit. Who would I tell that I quit comedy? What do I don't even have a resume, because I mean, you do have like, constituents, and you have people that rely on you, that you rely on. But in reality, you can say and do whatever you want, because it's like you said, it's like chasing, the thing to a gig, or like exposure or whatever. It's like, it is a free for all in a way where, and that's why this cancel culture thing, I think a lot of it is a myth. I just don't think that it really exists. Like, I think it's a misnomer. I mean, it's definitely way more sensitive people are now, but I just can't find examples of people being canceled, like, that didn't kind of deserve it. Or like, it's like, I was trying to do something about that in my act, because everybody is very, like, it's not that people are more sensitive now, they just have a bigger megaphone. They have like a bigger, like, they're amplified, and people are, I think what happened was, like, people are like, went from a group of disenfranchised people that we didn't realize were being so mistreated and, like, denigrated, that, and then we went overboard until to be like, now you can't say this and that, and everybody like talks about that, and it is annoying, and it's sort of like, feels like a First Amendment sort of attack, but in reality, it's just an overkill. You know what I mean? It's still better than what was happening to those people before, but it's definitely a strange and unique time because you do get people like, that get really mad at you about things, like, like, it's just funny. They'll pick and choose what, like, when I make fun of Catholicism, and I'm, with my experience, it's not usually not offensive. Like, what I just said to you is probably the most offensive. Then but then I make fun of another religion, and somebody will just get mad that was just laughing at the other thing.
Yeah.
I'm like, like, I mean, the other night, last week, I was at the Punchline, actually, and this lady goes, "Are you joking?" While I'm on stage, I'm like, "Yeah, that's exactly what I'm doing."
I'm a comedian.
I'm like, am I joking at this comedy club as a comedian during a comedy show? Yeah, I am.
Dead serious.
I'm serious about what I just said.
So you don't worry about cancel culture then? You just write jokes and to hell with it? Like,
well,
if they like
I keep saying to people, like my comedy friends, I'm like, I want to be relevant enough to get canceled.
There you go. Like you're in the news. Gilbert got canceled.
Yeah.
Then you made it.
Yeah.
No, I don't worry about it. And I don't think most of my comedian friends worry about it, because the people that should worry about it are the ones that have bad intent, because everything is about intent. Like, it's literally boils down to that word, intent. Like, like everything is out there to be said. There's nothing that's off limits.
Right.
But there's certain incendiary things that you say, that if you do say them, you better know that the bar's up here now, for like higher, for your payoff comedically, to show that it's not just a word to like get a rise out of people. So
right, like you can't use that low-hanging fruit to just make fun of something just for the sake of making fun of it. You have to actually craft an intelligent joke if you're going to use something that's a little bit edgier.
Right.
Exactly. It can't just be for the shock value. It truly has to be for the comedic value. And a lot of like sort of right-winger comics that like make a joke about people going, "Oh, you guys, political correctness, you guys are so sensitive. I can't say something about horrific and horrible about this person's sexuality or their religion or their culture just because there's no punchline. Oh, okay, I guess I can." It's like, yeah, no, you gotta have something funny.
You
can't just get up there and be a bigot.
Exactly. Being gay is not a punchline. It's like,
right.
People exist. It's kind of funny. Like,
you have to create something relatable and then turn it into something funny, and then people will laugh at that because it's real and it's the truth, but it's also the way that you deliver it.
Yeah, exactly.
One of my favorite. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say one of my favorite things that comedians do is they make the crowd real uncomfortable. Like they start like talking about something that's real edgy and sensitive, and it gets real uncomfortable. But then they spin it at the last second, and it's like, you can breathe because they took away that discomfort. That's quality, use of comedy
building tension.
Exactly. To use the intention, right.
So it's like taking the two things, like building tension and also taking the contrarian view.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's what a lot of comedians do, where they're like, they'll take the view that's not only not popular, but doesn't seem like something that you could ever reason out. So then it's but they're not doing it just for that challenge. That's how they think. So them convincing you of it is like, one of the highest forms of like comedy, where they're like, like Bill Burr has a joke where he's like, I'm glad Steve Jobs is dead. And you're like, what? But then he goes, you're like, what? Oh my God. Like, what? That's how he starts it. But what he meant is he goes into the fact that he didn't give all the scientists credit for everything, because they're like, he did this iPhone thing. It's like, I think he just walked around and said, I want all my music on my phone. You do it. And all these scientists were like, okay. So that's what he meant. And it really makes a good point that way. It's not like the initial, tension building of, like you're saying, is like, oh my God, but then you like let them off the hook, and it's like a great, you described it perfectly. You're like, and then they're like,
that sigh of relief when you can laugh and you don't look like an asshole.
Right. You're like, that is kind of funny, but I can't laugh because no one else is laughing right now.
Yeah.
It's like, especially if you're a white person and it's like a joke about a person of color, and you're looking around at the people of color like, can I laugh at this? Is it okay? Do I have permission?
I do that sometimes, where if the joke doesn't work and it's like, it is exactly that kind of joke, I'll look at the black guy and I'll go, look, white people, the black guy's not laughing either.
That's great. And that's another good point, because you do have to read the audience. Now, do you ever get up on stage and you have, say, your set list? I don't know if you have a set list, but if you have a set list and you're going to go in order, and then you read the audience and you're like, oh, I'm going to switch this up last minute and, pull out something else. And
I do that. My style is definitely, I probably should have mentioned that earlier too. My style is definitely more, free form. It's not, I wouldn't say like, it's all improv, but like I typically know what I'm going to open with and typically know what I'm going to close with.
Mm-hmm.
But in the middle, it's like definitely in the moment. And some of it will be stuff that I've never said before, but like most of it is, but it'll be seeing where it goes, like that's when it's the most fun to me. There's definitely different styles. That's the style I like. I think it's a live act where you're like, you can tell that it's happening right now. And the opposite of that is like somebody who's like, a technician that's like, like Jerry Seinfeld.
Right.
What?
Very scripted.
Yeah, like Jerry Seinfeld. I recognize his genius, but to me personally, I don't have any desire to see him live. It's like it's the same. These are words coming out that are very clever, very well put together. But give me somebody that's like that's live, that feels like almost like a car accident. It's funny, you know what I mean? Like that's the kind of, it's just taste and preferences, I guess.
Well, speaking of that, we watched the show, The Marvelous Mrs Maisel, and I love that show so much. And she is kind of that same way, where she gets up on stage and it's just kind of whatever's going on in her life, and she just makes it completely hilarious. And it feels like that's a lot of your style, is kind of that same, like, get up on stage riffing. Now, do you talk a lot about your life on stage, or do you kind of mostly keep it about what's going on in the world?
No, I talk about my life.
Okay.
A good bit. I'm trying to be more and more raw, like open, because like, I've had some personal things that are not that fun to talk about. Like I had a heart attack like 3 years ago.
Oh man.
And then I went to rehab for coffee. No, I'm just kidding. For amphetamines, Adderall. But like the more open you are about like yourself, and it's not easy a lot of times. It's like, it's amazing how even dark things about yourself, when you voice them again, without the intent of like trying to shock people, like whatever, for the intent of like being funny, but also being vulnerable and all that. It really resonates with people. No matter how much they actually can identify with that certain thing, it's more about like that feeling of everybody has something that's like that they feel like it's just so awful that they want to like leave in a certain place inside of them, that when it's voiced, everybody's like, oh yeah, we're all human beings. We're all have this existential dread that's like staring at us, that that our brain lets us think about every now and then. But we share so many things with with each other as far as that goes, human condition.
And it's unfortunate because a lot of people won't voice that. And that's what I love about comedy is you guys will say the darkest stuff there is, and it gives us permission to feel those things as well, because we're doing the same thing. We're hiding, we're burying, we're pushing those things down inside of us, and then you say it and it's like, oh well, I guess other people are dealing with that too. Oh, I guess that I have permission to think about this in a lighter way and not think that it's the end of the world. And so it gives people that freedom to think about their lives in different ways.
Yeah, because I'm sure there's a lot of people out in the audience who have gone through their family members having heart attacks or themselves having heart attacks. So when you bring that up, they're like, oh, like Jesse said, I can kind of sigh a little bit and say and accept it. And you give them that permission to do that.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, like that's the ideal situation. It's like, and it's a lot of times it's a fine line of being like, maybe that what you just mentioned is something they totally identify with or have gone through or not, but it's equally viewed upon as like something you don't want to really talk about or whatever. And it doesn't really tell you that like it's okay to have, like, say if it's a vice that you have that somebody brings up that's similar and you're like, oh, okay. It doesn't make it okay. It just lets you know that you're not alone. It's a slight difference of being like somebody, like if somebody identified with like a rehab thing, they're not like, I'm not giving them this message of, oh, it's okay, but it is telling you that you're not alone.
Right.
And there's a slight difference in that, but it's way more comforting to be like, because it's not accurate to say it's okay, but it is accurate to be like, you're not alone in whatever it is you're going through, because we're all out here like wondering what the hell any of this stuff is around us. This reality.
Right.
And it is sad because the human condition, we all feel like we are alone and we isolate ourselves so much and just keep burying everything deep down inside, when if we would just all open up and talk about stuff openly and honestly, there would be so much less issues with mental health and all the things that people are struggling with right now, just because silence is the killer that we don't ever talk about. And it's unfortunate.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that is the goal of mental health, is being like emotionally honest with yourself and just being like, hear what it's hard to fathom though. It's like, having empathy and compassion, because like, when you see somebody who like is somebody who's physically abusive to someone, and you're like, oh fuck, screw that person. It's like, but then you're like, oh, I bet they were physically abused themselves. Like, it's just, there is right and wrong, but there's that those two forces or opposing seemingly forces aren't like that obvious. You know what I mean? Like there's a whole lot of things that lead, nothing exists in a vacuum. It's like, I think that we've all been affected by certain things, and the more open people are, but I like joke about it when like sometimes when people are too open, I'm like, oh, okay, never mind. You're a weirdo.
That's awesome. But in reality, we are a collective, and your experience is different than my experience that I've gone through. So if we talk about that and share it, then you get a little bit of glimpse of what I've gone through, and I get a glimpse of what you've gone through, and we have a new perspective in life. And I feel like that's what we need to do. Have you been to the store or at your work or anywhere around, even your family sometimes, friends. You're just like, hey, how are you? Good. How are you? How was your day? Good. How was your day? Great. I mean, and there's no substance in there at all. And what did you really learn from each other? Absolutely nothing. And I feel like if we actually talked about it and we were open from the beginning, you would be like, weirdo, but at the same time you would be like, wow, I really know a little bit about her, and here I can share a little bit about me.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Like, that's why I love comics so much, because the small talk gear is like, it doesn't exist.
It's
almost
deep.
like
Your small talk is deep.
well, like, I mean, I'll meet somebody that's a friend of a friend that is a comic, and within like 20 minutes we're talking about like, the multiverse or like
Right.
whatever. And I'll have friends that I've known for 20 years that like don't have any idea, like, or we've never even approached anything like existential in our conversation.
Oh, we could talk about that for hours. Jesse and I would be like all about that conversation.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which is funny because I feel the exact same way. Like, I find myself, no matter who I'm talking to, I'm like, if I'm connecting with new people, especially, I'm like trying to feel out, okay, so what do you believe about life and all of creation and where we come from? And all, like, I want to know the deep crap. I don't care that you sit behind a desk all day and punch numbers. I want to know what you feel,
what your philosophy is, what your ideas are.
I want to know the deep things.
Totally, because you either, that's what matter, and if the person either doesn't want to talk about them, or even worse, they don't think about them. And I think that's what's happening. I think it's a numbing of people's emotion, and like they're like, they're not tethered to that like part of their psyche that remembers that this is all mysterious. So mysterious. That they're like, I can't wait to get my Georgia tickets for next year. And you're like, I'm a Georgia fan too, but I'm like, I'll just be sitting there talking to them like, yeah, they're good. Okay. But
what about life?
Yeah, exactly.
At the end of the day, that's just a game.
Yeah, it is. It is just a game. And what's not a game is the fact that how in the hell did all of these things happen that are so improbable for us to be here, sitting here talking to each other right now,
right
in this deep space and deep time in this moment. They're like, well, we got that pop star running back. I'm like, get away.
I feel like we're gonna have to sit down and have a conversation off mic sometime, just and talk about all the mysteries of the universe. You seem like our kind of people.
Yeah, for sure.
It consumes me like
same
constantly. I like love quantum physics and anything to do with like the cosmos.
We're a little obsessed. I've got the entire planetary a tattoo on my arm, and
that's awesome.
Jesse's showing Gilbert his tattoos.
I was gonna show you like my I don't have them in front of me. Bad time. I'm gonna show you some of my books. They're like real nerdy books.
Yeah, we watch the Gaia channel constantly and are just trying to learn more and just dive deeper.
Yeah,
and
who are we? Where are we from?
There's
it's not even nerdy. It's like the most fascinating thing,
right?
You can ever imagine.
And it's sad that people, like you said, they don't even think about these things. They walk through life every day with these blinders on and just pretend like everything is normal. And it's not normal. Nothing is normal. The fact that we are breathing oxygen is not normal. And we should think about that.
Yeah.
It's not normal that like the forces in our universe are so finely tuned for us to have life. And the fact that the expansion rate could be like, this small number change. The fact that our tilt in the planet creates seasons, and then the moon being so big doesn't let us wobble, and evolution needs long periods of predictable change for that to happen. The fact that like the Jupiter's right there taking all these like it's and so many. I almost sold a show called You Shouldn't Be Here, and it was basically like the cosmos on mushrooms. That's how we described it, and it was all the improbable things that have happened for us to be here. And then when you look at deep time, it's like insane. Like, when I was in New York, I would just look at people in the subway and be like, these are my brothers and sisters. Like, it's incredible that we're going through this reality at this moment that's so small in this tiny place. That's so small. Like, we should, like, if people thought about that more, I think they would be more focused on like not getting to the bottom of it, but like less focused on, like we were talking about, money, power,
Yep.
like, the nebulous measures of someone's stature. They're stupid. They're ridiculous. We're all going to be gone soon.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And our goal is just to learn as much as we can and to leave a better legacy behind that will end up changing and create change and create such a better earth, create such a better humanity. Our humanity needs to do another evolution completely.
I know. It's completely, we're so bad, like we're so lost. It's I feel like if it is a simulation, what the aliens have done is they're like, we're not even going to update the malware at this point. We're going to do all of it. We're going to do all of it. You're going to do mass extinction. You're going to do race war. You're going to do like a huge like a class warfare, and then all this like, and everything is just like sitting there, and we're like, what's crazy is like they showed those videos of like possible aliens, and people didn't care. They were just like, well, all right, like,
yeah, it was on the news. UFOs on the news.
Wait, no, I have a better one. I was on set of The Walking Dead, and we were in between scenes, and I saw something flying through the sky, like no joke. It looked like it was on fire, and it was going so fast across the sky. And I was showing everybody, I was like, look, what is that? And everyone was like, uh-huh. And then just looked back down at their screens, like no one even cared. So I pulled out my phone and I videoed it, and I have a video of it. If anybody wants to see it, reach out to me. I have a video of it. But this was also after I was trying to get everyone around me to look up at the sky.
What is more fascinating than that?
I know.
What could possibly be on Facebook that's more interesting than a potential UFO?
Right. Like, that's a fire.
Potentially life-changing discovery that will make humanity never be the same again. Like,
right. And
I'm not sure like where I stand with all that stuff, with like, the Drake equation and like, the Fermi paradox and all that. But like when they're showing these videos from like these jets, these fighter planes, and like from their whatever, and they're like moving like this. But I'm like, okay, see, this is the part where I'm like, I don't think these are real, because they're like, see this thing, it can go up and down and like go into the water. And I'm like, where's the video? I want a non-grainy video of something at some point in my life. Like my phone is an iPhone 11 Pro Max. I can get on my four-wheeler and it'll like stabilize it. But I'm supposed to like look at this thing from a Navy pilot. Like, get an iPhone. And when you're flying next time, and film it.
Right.
Now, Gilbert, do you ever talk about this when you're on stage? Do you feel like you can, or do you feel like that a lot of people are into when you start talking about the metaverse and the multiverse and everything that's out there?
No, I definitely talk about it. It's something that I'm trying to get better at. Like, the funny thing is, like with comedy with me, that's difficult is when I'm really passionate about something that I love, like this, like science and that kind of thing, or if I'm like, something makes me angry, it's very difficult to inject the right amount of comedy into it. Like one of my friends, Ryan Singer, is he's very much thinks like, like us, like is fascinated by all this, and he's so good at like crafting his material to be like so interesting and so hilarious at the same time. But I definitely talk about it a lot. I'm trying to get, like, years ago, I've gotten a lot better at it, because years ago I would just be like, at the end of each premise, I'd be like, oh, isn't that cool? Instead of being like, is there a punchline? And I'm like, no, but it's cool.
No, I'm just telling you.
And it's hard not to trivialize the important things to put them into your set. Like, I have the same problem with music. Like, I eventually want to write a song that talks about UFOs or whatever, but I don't want to do it in a trivial way. I want to do it in a way that people feel it and understand it. And it's hard to put those words just right, especially when you're extremely passionate about it.
Yeah, you want to do it justice. You want them to feel how you feel, but you're so whatever in your makeup gets so excited and so alive that you don't want to like have anything below that be the product of what you say to that, because otherwise other things like everyday things, it's okay to fall short, but you don't want to fall short of like the awe that you're experience when you think about it.
Right.
Yeah. So, we've talked a lot about how humanity acts around one another, but oftentimes when you're a professional creative, it has an impact on a lot of your relationships. It can be tough to hold down, romantic relationships. It can be tough to hold down friendships. How has that been for you as a professional comic?
Yeah, it's been awful. It's been really bad. Not because of just definitely the occupation, the pursuit of it is not conducive to doing that. But I personally have not done a good job of putting the right amount of effort and attention to offsetting that already like difficult structure that exists with that. Like so many of my friends that I'm like really close with have been real close with for years. The kind of friends, that you're like, they're not comedy friends. They're friends from before that are, the kind where you see them, you haven't seen them in a couple of years, and it just doesn't matter. You're like, you're not giving each other shit about not calling each other or like whatever. You just immediately love seeing each other and you enjoy it, and you pick up like those. There's so many of those kind of friends that I've just not put enough like or any kind of like effort into, because part of it is just comedy is like so it consumes so much of you, but also it's this thing that I'm falling into that I'm guilty of like being like, I want to see these people when I feel like I'm at a level that to show that this was worth it, that this creative path I took, I'm not a loser. And like, I know I don't feel like that myself, but I feel like looking at it from some, the general population sometimes is their filter, which it's like, I shouldn't care. I don't care otherwise. You know what I mean?
Right.
So why do I care all of a sudden, like if certain people, not them, they love me, like, and we love each other, they're not going to think that. It's just, I'm like putting these expectations or these preconceived notions on people that I know don't have them. So, and then for the romantic side, it's like, that's another one. It's like, a lot of times you'll date comedians or people that are into comedy, not because like, that's just like with music, for example, like if I meet a girl online and we start talking about music, I like talking about music very quickly because you can learn a lot about somebody. I feel like not everything, but certain things you can like really kind of, feel like you might have a connection with. It's, if they're like Toby Keith, which I don't know, like, I don't know, if somebody's like, I'm like, well, I'm probably not going to get along. Right. But also comedy wise, but it's also difficult because you're out every night, doing, so a lot of times you end up like dating comics and it's like, it's hard to, I don't know. I feel like I've put too much importance on being at a level of success, and that is not just financially. It's like of like
career
I don't know,
wise,
perceived success, where because I'm not there, but I'm not that's never there in reality. So I let all that kind of stuff fall by the wayside, and I think a lot of other comics do that too.
Yeah.
It's just not like, it's not easy to, it's not conducive toward relationships.
And, speaking of that, Gilbert, that goes to our society, right? Like our society has conditioned everyone to be at a certain level. Like if you start acting, you have to be at this level to be an actor.
Yeah.
If you're going to be a comedian, you have to be at this level to be a comedian. If you want to be a musician, you have to be at this level to be a musician. And that is not the way that society is meant to be. If you are a comedian, it doesn't matter, how many shows you're doing. It doesn't matter how big your shows are doing. It just matters that you're doing it. If you're acting, it matters that you're doing it. If you're a musician, it matters that you're doing it. And that's where our society falls so lack on, is that you are doing something that you love, that you're passionate about, and that you're actually going to make a difference in and teach people something that you know that they may not know, or help a family out that, is struggling with, say, a heart attack or something's going on in your life, and you give them a little bit of comfort, and I feel like our society is lacking on that so badly these days, because we are all here, especially creatives, to give everyone in the world a little bit of peace and a little bit of entertainment and a little bit of truth telling and a little bit of music. And that's what creatives are here for. And if you're doing it, you are doing it. So don't ever think that you're slacking because you're, not doing a Dave Chappelle show every single night, because you are doing comedy and you're always doing comedy. And if you wake up in the middle of the night and you have to write down a joke, then you're a comedian, you're a musician, you're an actress, that's you.
I love you. That was a great rant.
Sorry, I had to get into that rant because
that was a fucking good one. That was one you're gonna put, like, you could put a video to.
Society
it was
is
very good.
Thank you.
It's very true, everything you said. And what it reminded me of is sometimes when people go, like, that are assholes, they're like, "Oh, you're a comedian? I've never heard of you." I'm like, "Oh, really? You're a claims adjuster? I've never heard of any claims adjuster."
Right? Exactly. Thank you.
Yes.
I've never heard of you or anybody that does what you do ever.
Yep.
So let's not use that as a metric.
Yes. And you have to do what you love. You have to. And Gilbert, keep going. Don't lose your friendships, keep everyone to bay, and you will find the right person. I just know you will.
Yeah. And don't delay your happiness because you feel like you have to reach a certain place in life. And that goes for you. And that goes for all of our listeners. Yeah. That goes for us. You can't put your life on hold until you reach X level. Like, just live life. And when things come to you, let them come to you. When they don't come to you, okay, it's not that time for it to come to you, but just live your life, go through life ready for any opportunity that comes to you, and seize those opportunities as they come, and don't put any stipulations on it. Because one of my best friends is a comic as well, and for a long time he's always working on himself, and he's always doing the system that he's designed to make himself better, and he was holding off getting into a relationship until he had reached a certain point in his system. And then actually at our wedding, he fell in love. Yeah, he met Melissa. He was my best man, Melissa's maid of honor. They met.
Yeah. So basically, my sister and his best man fell in love.
Wow.
They ended up hitting it off, and a couple of weeks later, they started dating and stuff. And it was really cool because he had let go of the idea of, oh, I have to be at this certain level to be ready to be in a relationship, and he just did it, and he's happier now than he's ever been. And now he's able to do his system better because he's not consumed by, I have to get to this level so I can be in a relationship. I have to do this so I can be in a relationship. He's in a relationship, and now he can actually really work on himself and do it in a way that's positive,
that's healthy.
So don't put off,
and also for more than just himself. It's like for a partner, it's like, that's amazing.
Oh, it's the coolest story. We love it. But the moral of that story is, don't put off your happiness just to reach some arbitrary goal that you have set for yourself. Just be happy. Do things that make you happy. And if that's with somebody, cool. If that's not with somebody, cool. But chase happiness.
Right. And and I'm guilty of that. I moved to LA to be an actress, and I did a lot, and I learned a lot, and I trained a lot, and I came back and I was like, you know what? I want to be a producer, and that's the journey that I'm on now. And I just feel like our journeys are going to change, right? Gilbert, you may not always want to do comedy. You might want to produce comedians. You might want to manage comedians. You just never know where everything's going to progress. And just keep going forward. Keep doing you.
Thanks. Yeah, you have to always adapt. I feel like that's funny you say that, because I have been thinking more and more about, like, the production side, using my accounting background to still be creative, but putting together, people that I love and certain projects that I love, and still, being funny, but, using that as a way of creating, more art, essentially, right? Like, using what you got.
Right.
That's our goal. We're working that way as well.
I love this podcast.
Yeah, thank you.
This is like so therapeutic.
Well, it's our season finale, so you got to love it.
Yeah, got to bring all the heat.
Yes.
So with that, what are your future goals? Where do you want to see this take you in the short term and the long term? What's that looking like?
What it looks like to me is for me to get creatively from pure stand-up comedy standpoint, someone who is more prolific, that has more of a discipline to truly, put down on paper as much as I think is necessary to create new material and content that is valuable, that is of quality, and perform that, and be able to headline A clubs when I do want to do stuff on the road, because I do feature work now and then some headlining where it's not the big clubs, but getting to the point where I'm doing that. And then on the other side, it's like creating projects with comedian friends of mine and people that I think are talented. Like the festival that I produce called the Red Clay Comedy Festival, I've done some things that are like approaching some of that stuff. Like I love music. So 2 years we had like Patterson Hood from Drive By Truckers and like Mike Cooley. Like I like putting things together like that. And I think that if there's a way to because I always like booking shows and producing shows. I think on that side of it, I want to like be able to take it up a notch in a sense where I'm putting more into it than just a weekend kind of thing. It's more like putting in a production company, because so many of my comedian friends are doing really well, and I have the ability to get things seen that need to be seen.
Right.
And so I want to be aware of like all of that stuff and stop, being passive about pursuing things that I think that may be like too far out there, when it's the fun is chasing it. There's no end. The journey is the end.
Right.
The journey is the thing. So that's what it looks like to me.
Everything's achievable. It's just a matter of time.
Yeah, I love
just chasing it and like pursuing it is in itself success.
Yeah.
Like if you're not like ruining your relationships or life, it's like that's what comedy, that's what music, that's what acting is. It's like, well, are you successful? Yeah, because I love doing it. It's like it's just another, layer of it, where it's being more I guess more focused on it, or more deliberate about your goals and chasing it. So my goals are always two-phased, like the stand-up part, and then the non-stand-up that's also comedic related, to just put together projects. Atlanta is so inspirational in that sense, that there's like so many things being shot here, and like, you see it everywhere. It's like, it's not just attainable or accessible. It's like physically accessible.
Yeah.
And like, a lot of my comedian friends are like, they get cast and stuff, and I'm like, oh yeah, you're in Atlanta. It's like
you're in Atlanta. It's the hub.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well,
Basically, I want to do Meet the Browns with Tyler Perry. Like the Browns are going to be Middle Eastern. So
that's good.
Love
you
it.
should.
What if that was my main goal, and you're like, wow, this podcast really ended terribly this episode? He has a very strange dream that's not that impressive.
Well, no, you're a comedian, first of all, so we don't take anything that you say seriously.
Oh, good.
But this is my favorite part of the podcast, and it's your successes. We love to celebrate successes. Just like at the beginning of the podcast, we celebrated Jesse and our success where we just closed on our house. So what is your successes that you have recently that you would like to celebrate? Big and small, doesn't matter what it is. Everything is on the table, and we want to celebrate you.
That's funny, because like you're like, this is my favorite part of the podcast, but you don't know that maybe I don't have any successes. Where I'm like, let's see. Today I tied my shoes. Like,
bravo. Good.
Thank you.
Good job.
I take everything as a compliment, by the way. So thank you. I've lost like 15 pounds.
Nice.
I really needed to do.
Congratulations.
I don't have to keep telling people I'm gaining weight for a role. They're like, what role? I'm like, fat guy in a movie. They have a lot of those.
Fat guy number 2.
Yeah. No, a dinner roll. I gained 15 pounds because of a dinner roll. Just can't stop.
Yeah, so I'm getting a little bit better physically. Let's see. I am very close to booking our best lineup in red for our festival so far. It's maybe in a week we'll announce it. So in the past we've had like Janine Garofalo, Nikki
Oh, wow.
Glazer, Ron Funches, Roy Scovel, Eric Andre.
Mm.
So we're about to like take it up a notch, and I'm really excited about
What?
I put together. That I'm not want to jinx
I
it.
would have led with that, Gilbert.
Okay, so when is this festival? Because you keep talking about it, and I'm real
November
excited about it.
12th and 13th.
Okay.
Oh, right after
So-
my birthday.
Okay. Yeah. The day
Yeah.
after.
Yep.
Come on, I'll get you some VIP passes.
Heck yeah.
It's in East Atlanta. Takes place in East Atlanta Village. It's like Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Although this
Okay.
year it'll be Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and it's all shows were within like the same block, and like so there's 30 shows, 2-3 live podcasts, magicians, like after parties, all like in that area, and we bring in like 50 comics from all over the country, and including headliners and all that. So it's really
Well,
fun, and
let
definitely
us know.
Yeah, for sure.
Let us know also if you want us to come in and set up our podcasting station.
Oh
And
yeah, that'd be
yeah,
cool.
we can do a like a live from the festival
Yeah, that's a good idea.
and do some interviews with some of the comedians. It'll be really fun.
Yeah. I can even give you like, the short list of like the funniest, most talented ones that like would be really good guests.
Yeah, that'd be amazing. We would love that.
Yeah.
And if you need any other musicians, I know a guy.
And actually, we do
for sure. Let's talk. I love talking
Yeah.
about stuff like
yeah,
that.
Yeah.
and we've had a couple of comedians actually come on the podcast.
Oh, really?
So, yeah.
Yeah.
So we can definitely link you up as well.
Okay, cool.
Okay, awesome.
And so last but not least, what advice would you give for anybody wanting to go into the comedy field that's just getting their start, might be a little scared about it? What would you tell them?
Don't do it. Get back to what you were doing before. No, that's a good question. And I like end up mentoring so many comics now.
Oh, that's
because
awesome.
they come to me because I like can talk comedy forever, but they also know that I've been around, and like I do care about that, because like so much of your happiness and your sense of joy or fulfillment going into this very impractical, different direction in life, it's is so much of it is predicated on just perception, how you perceive what's going on around you. Like, so I would say to aspiring comedian, the one thing I would say more than anything is don't worry about where you're progressing in the sense of like the outside world's view of like, when are you going to do TV? How much time? When are you going to headline? Just do it for a long time, and a long time being a different set of time for each person. Just do it for the love of it, and don't think about anything else. Every week that you're like writing new stuff, don't measure yourself with anyone. Do it for be obsessed with the comedy part of it. Be obsessed with the writing and the performing of it. And no matter what people are saying around you, or any kind of jealousy or any kind of like industry rumors, like all of that will come, but falling in love with it and being obsessed with it and being able to translate that into performing and writing often, and being a prolific producer of quality content is what gets you success. Not the number of followers you have on TikTok. Like eventually that stuff matters for like draw, but don't forget that you have to get really good at something you love. And at the beginning is the fun part. You don't have to worry about anything, but just doing the thing that you love, and try to block out the other stuff. Also, get a job that lets you do comedy as much, like the more flexible, the job is, the easier performing and all that stuff is.
Yeah, that's great advice. And Gilbert, one more question. Where can everyone find you at? Your social medias, websites, what shows you have coming up? Where can they all find you at?
Red Clay Festival, all
Yep,
of it.
all of it.
Yeah. So you can find that at the website for the festival is redclaycomedy.com. I'm at Instagram as Jihad. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh my God. I think the feds are going to tag us after this one.
Yeah. I already got kicked off of Venmo for making an ISIS joke 2 years ago. But anyway,
Oh my God.
at Instagram at Gilbert Lawand. It's just at Youre Lawand. And all this, I think it's the same one for Twitter. Let's see, I have some fun shows coming up soon. I'm going to be, just check, also find me on Facebook. I put my schedule on there a lot. I'm always performing in Atlanta, 2-3 times a week. I usually let my friends know when it's like a good show at like a bigger one. But I'm at Star Bar a lot on Mondays. I'm at Punchline a lot. I'm at the Laughing Skull quite a bit.
Yep.
Get out and see some comedy. Atlanta's a great comedy town with deep talent and really great shows. So hopefully I'll meet some of you. And
Yeah.
You'll definitely see us out there. I definitely want to come check out one of your sets for sure.
Yeah.
I'd love for you guys to come.
Yeah, we just went to the Punchline.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Who'd you see there? Do you remember?
Well, we actually went to support one of our friends, Danielle Stroman.
Okay.
She just graduated.
Oh,
and
from Lace's class?
Yes.
Yeah.
And so it was just, all the girls, they had a couple guys, but it was a really good show.
They do a great job with that.
Yeah. And it's cool because Danielle was our first guest ever on this podcast.
Yeah.
And then we got to go see her do stand up. So it was really neat to get to support her.
That's a great class. Lace has produced some really great comedians and really given them a good, good basic, good start for it. So
awesome.
Well, Gilbert, this has been by far one of my favorite interviews we've done so far. I have thoroughly enjoyed this time.
Yes. I mean,
thank you.
You have been not only just hilarious, but just so insightful and so truthful. And thank you so much for just being you and telling your truth always.
Oh, no, thank you too. I meant that earlier when I said I love this podcast. It felt really good just talking with you guys back and forth. It's like a very shared, I don't know, mental state, very shared, like sort of kinship,
Yeah.
Well, you are now a part of the Reimagined Success family.
Yep, you're stuck with us.
Yep.
I'm glad.
So we'll definitely have to have you back on in a while from now when you're huge.
Right before the festival. We can get on and talk about it, and we can talk about the lineup. That would be great. So then that way our listeners, instead of asking us about it, they can go straight to the source.
Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be great timing.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So we'll look at that in November then.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right.
No problem.
Thank
Thanks
you
for
so
being
much. All right. So I am ready to start telling some jokes.
Yeah. I love comedians because it always makes me want to do comedy and it just tickles my funny bone.
Right. Okay. So we touched a little bit about the Marvelous Mrs Maisel. If you haven't seen the show, definitely watch it. But every single time Jesse and I watch an episode, we will start riffing with each other and come up with these like hilarious little jokes and riffs.
Yep. And it's one of those things I think that everybody has that in them where we all just love laughing and we love, to be made to laugh. And it's just one of the purest forms of art because laughter is just one of those things like when you hear a baby laugh, it's like the cutest thing. So it's just one of those really pure things when people make you laugh.
Oh, yeah. And, laughter really is one of the best medicine. I know I say it all the time on my social media, to smile. Even if you're having a bad day, if you smile, it'll turn your day around. And, this podcast today really turned my day around because I am not going to lie. Today has been one of those rough days at work. So I am thankful for this podcast right now.
Oh, yep. And with that, this has been a Creative Global Entertainment production.
Did you get motivated? Do you feel inspired?
Don't worry about keeping up with the Joneses anymore, and don't forget to celebrate your successes every single day. Thank you for taking this journey with us.
Follow us at Facebook and Instagram at Reimagine Success Pod. Email us at reimaginesuccesspod@gmail.com and let us know what your successes are.
New episodes every Thursday at reimaginesuccesspod.com.
So let's change our mindsets and reimagine success.